Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything coming at you with another wargaming and miniature video. In this video, we're continuing on with our Warlords of Nowhere boot camp. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about the turn sequence, order dice, and movement. Alright, so let's get into it. The turn sequence is both players alternate drawing dice from a bag. Okay, so I'm going to make these units kind of small, just to so we'll have more than one unit on each side. So we've got a warband there, a warband there, a warband there, a warband there. And so the two gray dice, we'll call them the orcs, and the two green dice, we'll call them the skeletons. And then you would go and put these into a bag. I'm just going to use that box right, and that would be hidden. So you would draw out of this box randomly. Now I guess if I held this box up really high, you could shuffle these around inside and then draw one. Okay, draw an order die from the die bag and hand it to the player it belongs to. So if I pull this die out, it's an orc. So I would hand it to the orc player, whoever's playing the orcs. And then he would allocate the die. So he would select one of his eligible units and place the die next to that warband, giving it an order. And the orders on the die are fire, advance, run, ambush, rally, and down. We'll explain what those orders do in just a second. So he places his die, and then he makes an order test. If necessary, the player takes an order test to determine if the unit follows his order. So you roll a die versus the highest command value in the unit. So let's say they've got a command value of 8. I have to roll an 8 or less. I rolled a 3. That means they succeed in their command. It works out their resulting action. If it was to move, they move their guys. If it was to shoot or attack or charge or whatever, then you repeat. Basically, you go back into the bag, you draw another die. It could be another orc. And then I place it there and I do my thing. And then, or it could be the skeletons 2 times in a row. You basically don't know who's going to go when because you draw randomly. Once all the dice are drawn out and all the troops have their dice next to them, the order dice are gathered up and returned to the bag with a few exceptions. Down. Units that have the down order, so let's say they have the down order, they must pass a recovery test to remove their order and return it to the bag. A recovery test is basically just roll their leadership or less. If they succeed, you pick up the die and you put it in the bag. If you fail, you leave the die down and don't put it in the bag. So basically, they'll have an order die for the next turn. They're not going to be able to take an order because they've gone down. Basically, they're taking a knee, they're hiding in a ditch, they're laying prone. They're basically trying to hide. That's down. And then you can re-roll at the end of every turn. If they have any pins on them, remember that 8 I was trying to roll, I would actually have to roll a 6 because I subtract 2 because of the pins. If I succeed, this comes up and 1 pin. If I fail the roll, this doesn't come off, but at least 1 pin does. All right, that's down. Then if a unit is on ambush, that's another option. Let's say they're on ambush. Units that have an ambush order can choose to retain the order for the turn. So when you're picking up dice, if somebody's got ambush, you can, well that says advance, ambush, you could voluntarily not pick up the die and leave them on ambush. Or you could pick it up if you want. Run. If a unit is running, fast units that have a run order can choose to retain the order from turn to turn if you want. Routed units must retain the run order until they have successfully rallied, because routed units are running for the hill. Okay, so let's talk about order dice into dice bag. Units eligible to receive an order. That's units that don't already have orders. Destroyed units. If a unit is destroyed during a turn, its order die is also removed from play. Reaction. When a unit is given an order and takes an action, enemy units are allowed to try and react immediately to some situations. And we'll get to reactions in a minute. order dice. You can be given one of 6 orders. Like I said, fire, advance, run, ambush, rally, and down. If you're given a unit fire, they shoot or throw weapons, or breathe flame. And that'll be explained in the video that I cover shooting it. Advance. A unit can move and make a ranged attack. Okay, so you would move, which I'll explain in the movement soon, and then make a ranged attack. But you have to complete your movement before you make that attack. Some units may be disallowed from moving and shooting at the same time, like a cannon or a stone thrower. They cannot shoot if they're given an advance order. They have to be given a fire order. Run. A unit is able to move double its pace, cannot make a ranged attack unless it is charging and carries weapons that allow it to throw as part of its charge. Ambush. A unit does not move or make ranged attacks. Instead, it maintains its position and waits for the enemy so it can react when he gets a chance. Then there's rally. A unit does not move or make ranged attacks. Instead, the unit pauses for breath and gets ready for the following turn by shedding pin marks. Remember, like skeleton units got this many pins on and he wants to rally. You can get rid of some of those. And that'll be explained when we get to that. Down. If you're down, you're dodging and you're avoiding missiles and you're crouching down, or you might be prone, like I said. Okay, so order test. Sometimes you have to make an order test, and you have to roll less in your command minus the number of pins. A unit that has no pins will act automatically when an order is given. No roll needed. If the unit has 1 or more pins, you have to make that order test. And it's the command -1 for every pin. Roll a d10, compare the test value. If the die is equal to or under, then you pass. A unit that passes removes 1 pin and then executes the order. If it fails, it still removes 1 pin, but then takes the down order instead. Rally order. When you take an order test to rally, ignore the pin, so you use the full command value. If the order test is passed, the unit removes 1 pin and then has been given an order and removes an additional d6. So basically it's a d6 plus 1 pin. Now if you fail the roll, the unit goes down and removes 1 pin. If the unit is routed and you make a rally action, and any friendly routing unit within 10 inches can also roll a d6 and remove a number of pins indicated before making command test. A unit that has no pins on it can make a rally action solely to rally other units nearby. Ambush. When a unit ends its turn in ambush, you can retain it. We knew that. Run order. If a unit has the fast special rule, then it is allowed to retain the order or return the order to the dice bag. That's your choice. Movement. Okay, this has got a few nuances. Move rate. Almost everything has a move rate of 5. That's basic. Some models might fast or slow, or they might have more inches or less inches. And remember, when models make an advance, they move their move rate 5 inches. Models making a run can move double their move rate, or 10 inches. And you can freely turn and in direction. You can swing or turn or zigzag however you want it. Then there's moving and the gap rule. Different units have to keep more than 1 inches apart, already explained, but you can move through 1 inch of a friendly as long as you end more than 1 inch apart. You cannot approach within 1 inch of an enemy unit unless you're specifically allowed, such as charging. Models in the same unit can pass freely through each other, obviously. And models belonging to a warrior or beast unit can pass freely through the formations of other warriors or beast units on their own side. Otherwise, models cannot move through other models. So basically your warriors or your beasts, like the dogs, they can move through stuff, but like chariots aren't moving through stuff, and gargantuan dragons, they're not moving through. The sprint rule. A unit that has been given a run order can make a sprint instead of a normal run if you want. This is all out. A sprint is a triple move, so you could go 15 inches. Some units are not allowed to, like zombies. Few units can make a sprint up to 4 maneuvers rather than 3. That's called a rapid sprint. But then you might have exhaustion. Units that sprint risk becoming exhausted at the end of their move. At the end of the move, they got to make an agility test. If they pass, they're fine. If they fail, they get 1 pin. Then there's a few exceptions. Units that can fly have their own fly distance. Some units might be immobile, like artillery on a castle. Okay, there's obstacles. That's why I got this guy out here. So let's say there's a hedge or a fence or a wall. It's a linear obstacle. Could be some rocks. Moving over obstacles. You can cross an obstacle as long as the unit retains its formation once the move is complete. You cannot have models more than 1 inch apart. Units with an advanced order can move over an obstacle without penalty, measuring the distance moved as if the model crossing open ground. So if they're close to this and I give them an advanced order, they can move 5 inches. And as long as these guys can move 5 inches, they just move 5 inches. Units with the run order can only cross an obstacle if they make a agility test. If they fail the test, they run up to the wall and stop. If you're already behind an obstacle like this, you can run or sprint over it without having to make an agility test. Imagine that they're already preparing to jump across. They got their hand on it, they're already halfway climbing, they're getting ready to jump over. However, if any models trigger a test, the whole unit is affected. So if this guy is there, he'll have to roll, which will affect them. And if he fails, they all have to stop right there. Remember, you only move as fast as your slowest member. Artillery units and chariot units can only cross an obstacle with an advanced order, even if positioned behind it. Any unit with the blundering special rule is treated the same as chariot artillery. Terrain, which I know that's terrain, but we leave it to the players to decide how to delineate areas of terrain on the tabletop. Most players have their own favored method, some choosing to use a base to indicate the whole area, others use boundary scenery arranged, like lichen or whatever. So, movement categories for terrain, you have to assign them. It's either open terrain, rough terrain, or impassable terrain. Rough terrain, an agility test, okay, let's say these trees, I'm going to call rough terrain for these orcs. An agility test is required to move into an area of rough terrain, or if it begins its move in the rough terrain. So if I need to move into it, or if I start inside it, I have to make an agility test. It doesn't matter how many models are moving into the terrain. If any one model moves in, the whole unit has to roll. If any part of the base enters the terrain area, if a model lacks a base for whatever reason, it is in rough terrain if any portion of the body enters the area. Because I have this model, and it has no base on it, right? So if any portion of the model is on the rough terrain, then it's considered in rough terrain. Make the test as soon as the unit attempts to move through the rough terrain or starts its move. If you pass it, the unit can complete its move. If you fail, the unit can complete its movement, but the remaining portion of the move is reduced to half pace. So if they run, which they would get 10 inches, and if they failed their roll, they would go like 2 inches, leaving, 8 inches left? That would be reduced to 4. So then they would be like right over here. And in some cases, you might choose to impose a penalty, like an extremely thick or tough area might get a -1 or a -2 agility. So the modifier goes against your agility, not against the inches that it takes to move through there. The die roll determines if it's halved. All right, well that was the turn sequence, the order dice, and movement. In the next video, we'll talk about shooting. See you next time.